In this video, we will see how to distribute vegetation into our landscape. So what we will do for that, we will just go into geometry nodes again, and we will continue our setup. So this can be a frame, for example, and we will add a frame for that. Okay, let's go to layout, frame. We can select all these nodes here, click and drag them into the frame. Okay, and this frame we can rename it here into the options. Here you will have the group node, here the frame, and this will be terrain. Okay, this might be a color brownish, something like this. Okay, good. And now what we will do, we will just go and continue after that. So we will add some vegetation, and for this we will add some plants into our project. We will not distribute directly, but at least have a collection here. So we can rename our object terrain, okay, and its collection as well. Maybe add a new collection and call it vegetation. And inside this vegetation collection, we will go into our here asset browser, and here into the model sections of Poly11, you will have the nature props. Okay, and here you can find some nice things to to distribute into something like that. So maybe we could play with trees, but be careful of that. It will add a lot of it can add a lot of geometry. So yeah, maybe we'll just play with plants for the example. So I will just add the anthurium over there. Okay, here when I use this, I remove the instance like this. I have the real collection of anthurium like that. Okay, and I will add the fern as well. Like this, we'll have both. And what I will do, I will just call that one little vegetation. And put all the objects that I want to distribute into that one. This one I can remove it, so I will have this kind of setup. Okay, so here we can come back now into our geometry node setup. So what we will do first to distribute something is we will add here distribute point on faces. Oops, sorry. So distribute points on faces will create something like that with this geometry. Okay. In the end of this, you will have points. These points, you can manage this with Poisson disk. It's better, you have more options. So like this, you have the minimum distance. So if you want to increase the density, if you want as well, okay, and the density factor if you want to play with the factor of density. So what I will use here is something with, you can see that you can increase the minimum distance at 2, for example, and you will have far less, just like this. Okay, I will just keep it like this with density like that, and we will increase it after. Anyway, we will change the settings after. But first of all, let's now put instances into this point. So for this, we will go and add the instances. So what we search is to add some instance into these points. And for this, we will just add a collection, because we can add a collection in geometry nodes. So let's add a collection. Okay, it might be collection info, just like this. And we switch and select our little vegetation collection. We enable the separate children, the reset children here, and we put this as an instance. And now we should have a lot of vegetation everywhere. I will just make Alt A to manage this here. and you can see that we have quite a lot. Okay, so what we can do, we can use the pick instance to pick only one object as an instance, and now we have some vegetation everywhere. So what is good with these options here is that now you can random the value, for example, for the rotation. Okay, so let's go for the rotation here, and for that what we will do, we will use a vector random. So let's go with a random here. Okay, random value over there. This will be a vector, and I will click and drag this into this. Like this, I will just don't want any rotation into the X and Y axis. I just want some random rotation into the Z axis like this. As you can see, it will change everything. So I can just add a big value over there just to make a nice random rotation. I can make a random scale as well. So for this, I will just have to add another random. Let's go for this. And instead here of use the vector, we'll use the float. And we will use the float like this. We will manage all of the settings at once. Okay. And like this, you can see here, minimum 0, maximum 1. So if I decrease that, I will have less big vegetation. And if I increase just a little that, I will have little vegetation and big vegetation. So I can make a nice random value for the scale, just like this. Okay, maybe we will decrease a little the size, like 0.4 maybe, and increase a little the density, like maybe something at 50. We will see how it works basically. Here we'll have something that looks great here. Even increase more, because we might have really something with a lot of vegetation in the end. Okay, so here you can see the result over there, and here I just have to mix that with the original shader, the original geometry that we had. So for this, I will add a join geometry here, just put this here, put this here, and now what we have in the end of this is the entire thing. Okay, so the vegetation and the landscape. What we want to manage this vegetation and make it a little more interesting is to use some factors here with the selection value here. You have an instance value and the selection value here. So for example, what we could do is tell to Blender that we don't want some vegetation into the faces that have a big angle. Okay, so for example, if they are really straight like that, they will not grow up into these faces. So to do that, we'll just create something like that. Okay, we will add the normal. So let's add a normal. Okay, so it's normal value, it's a vector value like this. Okay, and we will add an operation. Okay, and for this, it's a compare. So you will use a vector, and you will use the direction, and here it will be less than or equal. Good. So here, if it's less than or equal an angle of, let's say, 50 degrees, okay, it will be a selection. You see the result here. So now I can just plug that with a darken. So let's go with a darken. Or we can plug that directly first to see a little how it looks. Let's plug this into this. So by default, it doesn't change that much here. Maybe I have to increase or lower the the angle here. I did plug that well into the selection here. I use the normal here as an A, and this needs 1 or it will not work properly as well. Okay, so here we have nothing at 30. Now at 40 we have nothing as well. At 50 again, and I increase until I start to have something interesting. Okay, start to look good. 60, how does it look? 55, okay. Oh yeah, it wasn't a good selection. It's here, it's the selection here that is important. Okay, so now we can start to see the effect. Okay, good. So when we go there, you can see that if I increase or decrease this value, it will tell to Blender that some faces will not be affected by the vegetation here. So as you can see, it creates already a nice effect that everything is facing up is growing, but everything that is not facing up is not growing. So yeah, and you play with the angle over there and just manage this like that, okay, to have more or less vegetation, but already look, it has a nice distribution into it. What you can do as well to increase a little the randomness of it, if you want, it's to tell that the top of the geometry will not have some vegetation. So for this, you will play with the position node, and here, let's go for it. Position. It's a little the same way we did use in the shader, okay? We will use a separate X, Y, Z, just like that. Okay, then we will use less than or equal, so it will be a compare node again. This one will be a float, less than or equal. Okay, we use the Z factor over there. So we put this, and after we just have to manage this value. And to mix this value here with this one, we will use a mix color. Okay, and the mix color will be a darken. And we will mix the first one here with the second one here, over there. Good. So now it should be good, and the second one, yeah, we will see here. So now we will just plug this into the selection over there. Okay, by default it will not change anything, but if I increase the level here, you can see here, you will start to see the result at a moment, I guess. Factor at 1, or it will not work. Okay. Did I forget something? I don't think so. Okay, so 0.1 we have nothing, and we start to increase the level until we have something. Yeah, we see here that the top of the mountains, they are not with vegetation, so we can increase that a little, and like this, only the top of the mountains will don't have any vegetation, just like that. Okay, and now it starts to look realistic. Another way to add some randomness into this is to add a texture. So with this, you can play with a texture. For this, we will just add a noise texture, simple noise texture. Let's go into the noise texture here, and we will just use the darken value again. Okay, so we'll duplicate that. put this in the end of this one, the color, the factor here. Okay, we will put a color ramp between this and this, and we will use the darken value like that and change the result over there here with the selection. Good. So now what we have is a noise texture, and we will change the settings. Maybe we will see a little with the, it's not the factor here, it's here, it's that one. Okay, so we'll see a little this with a color ramp a little more. Like that. And if we make it a little more contrast, we will start to see some dots of vegetation that will disappear, and it will create something more interesting with the distribution. Okay, you can see the result here. Okay, so maybe here the scale is too big, make it maybe 0.5 or something like that, and you can see here some interesting patterns over there. Okay, so maybe just increase a little the level of details, not that much, and after just play with the scale to have the right pattern that you want. Maybe that one looks good. Okay, we can see that at 1 it's not that bad, maybe 1.5. Let's go with 1.5. It starts to look good. Okay, and if you want more vegetation or less vegetation, you just play with the black value here. So if you increase or decrease that, you will not see that much the result here, but if you increase it and contrast it with the white here over there, you can see that you will have less and less vegetation. So maybe a value near here might look good, just like this. Okay, so that's it. So like this you can see the result before and after. So if I mute that and mute that one, okay, so here we had everything with this. Now we did add this angle. Now we add the top of the mountains with no vegetation, and now we add a little of randomness on the distribution. Okay, and like this you have something that is more interesting than before. What is good with this system is just with this seed here you can just manage a new generation. So very simple to add another collection with that. So let's say that this will be the distribution of the vegetation, just all these nodes here. So I will just frame that by adding a frame. Okay, put it here, manage all of this here, and this will call it distribution, but it can work for other objects as well. For example, here is just vegetation, but you could use it for another kind of objects like rocks or something like that. Let's make it with rocks. Here we have this frame here, and what we will do, we'll enable the color and maybe put it green. Like this we see that it's the distribution of the vegetation. Okay, but what we could do as well is duplicate that, okay, by making a Shift D, just like this. Plug here this one over there into the geometry. So like the brother on the left. And here on out, you can add it to the join. Okay. So what it will make, it will create a new distribution. So I will just hide that one with mute. Like this, we see only the second one. And I will hide that one as well. Like this, we cannot see the distribution with the points. And maybe on that one, I will add some rocks. So let's go with rocks. And so I will change maybe the color of it with something grayish, for example. And let's go with another collection. And for this, I will just create a rock. And maybe if I just add this into the layout, if I go into the nature props, here we have some rocks. So let's put maybe some rocks, simple rocks here, simple rocks moss set. Might look good. Okay, so we add this into our setup. Maybe we scale it down. We don't want this as big as it is, and we apply the scale for that. Okay, like this it will look good. And now we will want to make this rock moss set here into our geometry node. So let's come back into our geometry node, select the right object here, make Alt A to still have the object selected but not active. And now like this, we can just select here the rock moss set. So now it will add a lot of rocks everywhere, as you can see. Okay, so what we can do for that, we can make the density max maybe at 20, not that much, maybe something like this. Maybe the size has to be far less big, so between 0.1 maybe, or even 0.05 and 0. Let's say 2, okay, to don't have that big setup, okay, for the rocks. And we have already something that looks interesting. Okay, so now that maybe we can add a little more size, 0.4, just like this, 0.3, looks good. Yeah, I like this. And now I can re-enable this with a new seed. Like this it will be into other places, okay? And I can re-enable the vegetation by just going here and use M and M to unmute the vegetation distribution, okay? So now we have the rocks and the vegetation, and maybe you want to add some trees or you want to add things like that. You can just change directly what's inside the little vegetation here. So let's maybe add some trees just to see a little the result with that. Okay, let's go into the layout here, go back into the plants, and maybe we will use simple trees like this, very simple ones. Okay, just like this, to not have too much geometry. Be careful of the number of geometry, it can increase really a lot. So let's take this tree just simple. So we'll have one that is here. So let's go here into the geometry node setup. And now we can just select the right collection and it will change the entire collection. So let's take that one like this. And let's see how does it look. You can see that it slows down a lot my computer because there are a lot of vertices there. So be careful of that. And yeah, it's blurry and everything. So I don't recommend there's trees here. They are too high poly to make something easy to manage. Okay. So here I come back with the little vegetation here over there. Good. And I will have something to work with. So don't hesitate to have a look on this. It's very powerful to distribute objects, even if we did see that it's totally possible with BagaPy. But it's this kind of setup that you will find maybe a little more advanced, but inside BagaPy itself. So like this, if you want to change something, you can do it yourself. And this is the most important. If you use tool and you don't know what's behind the tools, it can be a little tricky after to manage things that you want to make yourself, and that maybe this option is not inside the tool. For example, in BagaPy you cannot use the texture setup here to manage the distribution. So it can be useful to manage this. Anyway, I save this into the source files as usual. So that's it for the basics understanding of geometry nodes. You can see that there are a lot of examples here. Into the demo files, you can see that here into the geometry nodes, boom, 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 boom. Geometry nodes here, yeah, you have this too, but this is not what is interesting for me. Geometry node setups here. you can see a lot of possibilities. You have even some so you have some scattering, some distribution, you have some node tools here, scattering p-balls, so you can make a donut or things like that. Just have a look on these files, download them, and just go through the geometry node setup to see how it works basically. So it can be a very powerful way to play with the geometry setup here. For example, here tree, leaves and grass, or things like that, or repeat zone to open a flower and make it bloom. So yeah, can be very, very powerful. This, don't hesitate to use this into your project. So that's it for the geometry nodes, and we arrive to the last chapter of this training, and it will be the compositing. So when you made your modeling, your texturing and everything, you add some lights and you make your render. Maybe you want to change things a little like in Photoshop, but it can be very useful to make it in Blender, because what you can do is use the entire setup to manage an entire animation. And this, it's called compositing, and we will see that into the next chapter.